Miss Kristi here, and I am so excited to be together again cooking in the kitchen. Today we are learning how to make flourless peanut butter cookies. This quick sweet treat uses just 3 ingredients plus one that's optional, and it only cooks in our oven for 10 minutes. We're gonna have fun making this together today, and I'm so glad you're here.
All is calm and all is bright tonight.
Now, the first step to cooking and working in the kitchen is to wash our hands. While I wash my hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds, let's go over the ingredients and supplies that you'll need to gather to cook along today. The ingredients you'll need are 1 cup of creamy peanut butter, 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, 1 egg, and 2 tablespoons of chocolate chips, which are optional. The supplies you'll need are a cookie sheet, small mixing bowl, liquid measuring cup, 1 cup dry measuring cup, 1/3 cup dry measuring cup, 1 tablespoon, a spoon, a fork, parchment paper, and oven mitts for safety. Okay, great. Your hands are clean and my hands are clean. We've gathered our ingredients and supplies, so let's get started making our flourless peanut butter cookies. This is just a fun, quick, sweet treat, and there's not a lot of ingredients, so let's get started. The first thing we need to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees. These cookies will cook in the oven for 10 minutes, so let's get our oven preheated so we can start making our cookies. So 350 degrees. Okay, great. While the oven preheats, let's start putting together our cookies. So the first thing you're going to want to do is grab your small mixing bowl and put that right in front of you, because that is where we will assemble our cookies. And then go ahead and grab your 1 egg and your fork, okay? So we're going to crack our egg into our mixing bowl. If you don't feel comfortable cracking it right into the bowl because you're worried about shells, you can always just crack it into maybe your liquid measuring cup or another small bowl and then dump it in. We're just gonna tap it gently on the side and pull it apart. No shells. And you can set your eggshell to the side and then grab your fork and just give this a little whisk before we add our peanut butter. I just want it to be broken up a little bit and have that yolk spread out. All right, you can put this to the side for a second. We just need to measure out our peanut butter. So we need 1 cup of peanut butter. So go ahead and grab your 1 cup dry measuring cup. It's the biggest one like this that we're using today. And then grab your spoon and grab your peanut butter. I find the easiest way to measure peanut butter is just to scoop it right out of the jar. So I've got my peanut butter here. I'm just gonna put my 1 cup dry measuring cup right in front of me. And now you can use crunchy if you prefer. I feel like it makes a better cookie consistency if we use creamy peanut butter, but really whatever you have in your kitchen. You go ahead and just scoop out 1 cup of peanut butter. You could also do this with almond butter. Maybe you can't have peanut butter, so you could make flourless almond butter cookies. Today we're gonna do peanut butter, but once you make it and you know the recipe, you can try different nut butters and see which one you like the best. All right, so I've measured out a cup of peanut butter, and you can set your peanut butter to the side. We are done with that. Now all I'm going to do is dump this into the bowl. So bringing my bowl back in front of me, I'm gonna actually take my fork out now. We'll use that again to press down our cookies, but I'm just gonna set this to the side for a minute and scoop into the bowl my 1 cup of peanut butter. Make sure you scrape the sides. We need all of our cup in there. All right, once our peanut butter is in the bowl, go ahead and just stick your spoon in there. We're gonna mix that in a minute. You can set your 1 cup dry measuring cup to the side. We are done using that. Now we just need to add the sugar. So grab your 1/3 cup dry measuring cup. It's the one that says 1/3. It's the smaller one like this today. And then grab your granulated sugar. We just need to measure out 1/3 cup of granulated sugar. Try to get as much as you can. And then we're just going to pour this right over our peanut butter that we just poured in. All right. I've got about 1/3 of a cup. I'm gonna pour that right in. You can set your 1/3 cup to the side. You can set any extra sugar that you have to the side. And now go ahead and we're gonna use our spoon. We're just going to mix this together. Okay. And then from there, really, we just measure it out and put it on our cookie sheet and we pop it in the oven. So you wanna make sure you get this really mixed together. You want your egg to be mixed into that peanut butter. It's gonna get a little bit sticky, which is good because we want our cookies to stick. But we also need to make sure all that sugar gets mixed around. If you need to use your finger to brush off your spoon, you can do that. That's why we work with clean hands when we cook in the kitchen and bake in the kitchen. But really, it'll come together pretty quickly. And all we have in here again is an egg, peanut butter, and sugar. Once we're done cooking them, we do have option to drizzle some melted chocolate chips over it. So that's the optional ingredient. But we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so this looks good. So all of my sugar and my egg is mixed into this peanut butter. I've got a sticky mixture here. You can go ahead and set your spoon to the side. We are done using that. And now you're going to want to grab your tablespoon. So it's the one that says 1 TBSP and your cookie sheet and parchment paper. So I have my cookie sheet here. I've just laid a piece of parchment paper right on top. Now, parchment paper is usually optional. It does help it clean up a little bit easier. For the peanut butter cookies, I definitely like to use parchment paper so that they don't stick once we take them out of the oven and they need to cool. So I'm just going to place my cookie sheet and my parchment paper right next to me. I've got my 1 tablespoon, and from here, all I'm going to do is measure out 1 tablespoon of our cookie dough. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we kind of do want them all the same size so they cook evenly. So I've got a tablespoon, I'm gonna pop it into my hand and just roll them into little balls. Okay. And this will make about 12 to 14 cookies, depending on how big you scoop out. But if we keep it around a tablespoon, usually that makes about 12 to 14. So from here, I'm just going to scoop out a tablespoon, roll it in between my hands, and then space it out on my cookie sheet. So you want about 1 inch or 2 between each cookie so that it has room to bake and not end up cooking into each other. But we will make sure that we have enough room once we press them out in just a minute. I'm going to do 3 in a row. We will do a couple rows. It smells good because who doesn't like the smell of peanut butter? All right, this is probably the longest part of the recipe, is just rolling out our cookies. But I like to use them, like I said, I like to use the 1 tablespoon to measure so that our cookies end up almost the same size. It's a good way to make sure they cook evenly. And then too, you know how many cookies that you'll end up with. All right, almost done. We've got 9, a couple more. And if for some reason it really starts to stick to your hands, you could always rinse your hands under water a little bit. Sometimes that water will help so the dough doesn't stick to your hands. But this dough is doing pretty well today. All right, so this has gotten us 12 cookies so far. We might have about 1 more. So like I said, 12 to 14. This gave us 13 cookies. We got an extra one today. We'll put it back here. And I think this is not enough because that one would burn. If I made a really tiny ball, then it would probably burn before the rest of the cookies cook. So we're just gonna stick with 13. You can put your bowl to the side. Now you will wanna keep your 1 tablespoon out because that's what we'll use if you choose to melt some chocolate chips in a minute. All right, the last step before we pop these in the oven to start cooking is to press them down with our fork. So grab your fork that we have in our supply list, and all we're going to do is take our fork and press down one way and then lift it up and press down the other way, okay? This flattens them out. Usually peanut butter cookies have this nice shape on them, so we are just pressing down, lifting our fork up, and pressing down again. I'm gonna do that with all of my 13 cookies. Helps flatten them out a bit. So press down. Don't want to press too hard or you'll end up cracking your cookie, so just gently pushing them down. And it doesn't have to be perfect because it will taste good. And you can always squish the sides together a little bit if they broke apart. So we'll show you with this one. So I pressed it down, picked my fork up, press it down again. And then you can just shape it back into a circle if you need to. Really, cooking in the kitchen is trial and error. So if you try this and it doesn't work, something doesn't work, try it again. The more you do it, the more comfortable you will be. And this is a great recipe to try because it only has a couple ingredients and a few steps, and then we end up with cookies for ourselves. All right, so again, I'm just pushing it down one way, lifting up my fork, and then pushing it down the opposite direction. So making a little cross on there. Push down. And our lucky number 13, push down. And then, like I said, for this one, to kind of shape it back into a circle if you need to. All right, so this also, again, helps with the parchment paper because we have flattened them down a little bit, so that parchment paper is gonna help so it doesn't stick to the pan. All we need to do now is put them into our oven to cook for 10 minutes. So I'm gonna put these in there, we'll set a 10-minute timer, and then we'll talk about getting them out safely. All right, friends, this is exciting. Our 10-minute timer just went off, so now we just need to carefully get our cookies out of the oven and let them cool. So, first thing we need to do is grab our oven mitts for safety. That pan will be very hot, so we need to put oven mitts on to protect our hands. And then you need to have a surface ready that you can set your pan on to cool. So whether that's like a wooden cutting board that can take the heat, or you have a pot holder or something to protect your counter, we need to take these out of the oven carefully and let them cool for about 5 minutes. But if you are choosing to melt chocolate on top of your cookies, while our cookies are cooling, we're going to actually start melting our chocolate. So first thing I'm going to do is put my oven mitts on for safety, turn off your oven, and then let's take our cookies out. All right, so the cookies are now out, and I'm going to set them on this protected surface to let them start cooling. And again, if you are choosing to melt chocolate, go ahead and do this next step. If you don't want to do the chocolate on your peanut butter cookies, then you can just wait and let them cool for 5 minutes, and then we'll talk about getting them off safely. But I'm going to now melt some chocolate. So take your liquid measuring cup. I like to melt things in the liquid measuring cup because I know that it can take the heat. There's a handle that I can hold when I take it out of the microwave so it's not hot to touch. So take your liquid measuring cup, place that right in front of you, and then you'll need your chocolate chips and your 1 tablespoon. So this is the one that we used earlier to scoop out our peanut butter cookie dough. So it says 1 TBSP, and now I'm just going to measure 2 tablespoons right into the liquid measuring cup of our chocolate chips. So here's 1 tablespoon and 2 tablespoons. Ooh, get all the chocolate in there. All right, any extra chocolate chips you can set to the side. You can actually put your 1 tablespoon to the side. That's all we needed that for. And now I'm going to put this in the microwave for 30 seconds. I'm going to then stir it with my spoon, which we'll talk about, and then we will put it in for 1 more 30 seconds. So altogether this cooks for a minute, but we need to stir it in between so that it doesn't start to burn on the bottom. So let's get this in for the first 30 seconds. All right, the first 30 seconds is done. So all I'm doing is grabbing the spoon that we had in the supply list. If it happens to be dirty from using it, make sure you give it a quick rinse or grab a new spoon. But you're going to want to grab your spoon, and now we're just going to give these chocolate chips a stir carefully, grabbing the handle of your liquid measuring cup, and then put it back in for 30 seconds. So let's do it. All right, friends, so I'm going to now take my chocolate out, give it a final stir, and then we will start pouring it over and talking about that. All right, so give this 1 more stir. When you take it out of the microwave, you'll probably still see some chocolate chips in there, but as you start to stir it, it will then all melt together. All right, my cookies are still a little bit warm, which is okay because it'll help melt that chocolate on there a little bit as well, and then they'll start to harden up as they continue to cool. But all I'm going to do is, if you choose to put chocolate on your cookies, and you could do this however you want, you could really wait till they were fully hardened and cooled and you could dunk them. I'm just gonna take my spoon and just drizzle some chocolate right over the top. And usually I like to do either just one side of the cookie so that I can grab another side with my hands and not get a ton of chocolate everywhere, or you could drizzle the whole bit on. And you could do this and you could maybe not even do all of the chocolate on every cookie. You could do some that have chocolate, some that don't. But up to you how you want your chocolate on there. And even too, if you wanted to get really adventurous, once you have chocolate on there, you could take some extra peanuts and put them on top. You could put a different type of nut on there. Like I say, when you cook for yourself in the kitchen, these are the choices that you get to make. And you can try different things. You could maybe put sprinkles on here. This is also what helps with the parchment paper too, is that it doesn't get your pan all dirty, because with the melted chocolate, it helps protect your pan. All right, and I'll leave just a couple without. So if you have any extra chocolate, once it cools down, feel free to eat it with your spoon, or you can just wash it when you have a chance. So from here, I'm still gonna let these cool for just a few more minutes because we only cooked our chocolate for about a minute and then spread it on. So I'm gonna let these cook for cool for a few more minutes, and then we'll talk about getting them on a plate. All right, friends, our cookies have continued to cool for just a few minutes, and now all we have to do is put them on a plate. So if you've got a small plate around, you can grab that, take one, pop it on. Now again, this made about 12 to 14 cookies, so if you choose not to share them with a friend or family member right away, then you go ahead and put them in a Tupperware container that has a lid that keeps them fresh, and you can either store them in a cabinet or your pantry, or actually store mine in the refrigerator. I like them to be a little bit cold when we eat them. So I do hope you try and make them, or try and make them again. And when you do, let me know how it goes. Leave me a comment, let me know if you have any questions. You can even send me a picture of how your Flourless peanut butter cookies turned out. I'd love to get to see your creation, and maybe we could share it next week. Now, speaking of next week, on next week's episode, which is episode 92, we are learning how to make a breakfast classic or snack classic, which is avocado toast. This quick snack or breakfast uses just 2 ingredients plus a little salt and pepper, and we only have to pop it in our toaster. In order to cook along and make avocado toast with us next week, these are the ingredients that you'll need to have in your kitchen. Half an avocado, 2 slices of bread, and a pinch of salt and pepper. Well, friends, our time together today is almost over. I do hope you've enjoyed learning how to make our Flourless peanut butter cookies. I know I had fun, and I already can't wait to cook together again next time. But before you say goodbye to this episode, make sure to click subscribe if you haven't already. You just have to click the little picture of me in the corner. That way you don't miss next week's episode. It'll be out on Friday, and I'll see you then. Bye, friends. It's time to eat our cookies.